Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I have realized that people continue to subscribe to the channel, and I want to say thank you for this support that you're giving me. If you're watching for the first time, allow me to request you to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and like our videos. And please don't forget to leave a comment concerning the video. Now, recently, USA President Joe Biden organized for a summit that he named Summit for Democracy. This is a summit where President Joe Biden invites heads of states and leaders whom he feels have made tremendous steps in trying to expand the democratic space, and those who respect the rule of law. This summit includes civil society groups and certain private organizations. This was the second summit, the first one having taken place last year, the year 2021. Some of the heads of states that were excluded were lucky to be included this time round. And this time round, Joe Biden decided to co-host the summit, and the countries that were lucky to co-host this summit were Costa Rica, Netherlands, South Korea, and Zambia. The first one took place virtually. Those were invited, and they discussed quite a number of things. This summit, if you ask me, is a fallacy and full of hypocrisy. I want to read to you what Reuters was reporting. Among other things that became a concern in this summit, they say that there is high inequality in most governments and corruption that continue to erode democracy. These are some of the things that Joe Biden is looking at. And it continues to say that at the same time, authoritarian leaders are reaching across borders to undermine democracies. And how do they do this? It's reported that from targeting journalists and human rights defenders to meddling in elections. You know, when I read that part alone, and taking into consideration that the president of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, has been invited as one of those presidents who have made certain steps to expanding democracy, I thought this is laughable. And I will tell you why this summit is really attracting a lot of debate, because it seems the meaning of democracy has changed. Or in the sight of the USA president, it means another thing from what you think, because the last time I checked, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Let us look at a few things why people feel this is just a joke. When they talk about corruption and inequality that erode democracy, in my country, there is a lot of inequality. And this is coming from the horse's mouth, because the head of the government, the deputy president himself, has come out to tell Kenyans that their government is a company that only those who voted for them will benefit from the national cake. And he has continued to maintain that if you did not vote for them, it means you did not invest in this company, and therefore you will not get any kind of a development. And so when William Ruto sits, whether virtually or not, and they're discussing the level of democracy, this describes him, because there is a lot of inequality. Appointments into state offices include the majority of two tribes, that of the president and of the deputy president. And then they talk of authoritarian leadership that undermine democracy by targeting journalists and rights defenders. Look, a few days ago, there is a photo and a video that has been trending where the Kenya Kwanza policemen did what I can only describe as tried to butcher our journalist. One of the police officers was caught breaking into a vehicle that belonged to a group of journalists, and he fired tear gas directly into that car, then closed the door. They were choking inside there, and when a certain colleague of his tried to open to help the journalist, you could hear another commander from behind telling them to close that door. So if this is what was being discussed in Ruto's government, yet Joe Biden feels that President William Samoei Ruto is a man who upholds human rights, then I don't know. This is you might remain speechless. Let me tell you something. They talk about meddling in elections. That defines the Kenyan scenario. Because we all know it doesn't need rocket science to understand that the West and the European Union are solely responsible for meddling and interfering with our elections, and have given you examples before. I need not to repeat that. I have always known that diplomats would wait for the day when the declaration of presidential results would come, then they will be invited. But this time around, we saw the US ambassador, Meg Whiteman, pitching camp at the Bomas of Kenya during tallying and verification of elections, of our results. And one wonders what she was doing there. With a number of other diplomats, they ensured that they robbed Raila Amolo Odinga of his victory. Those are not my words, but Raila Amolo Odinga has continued to say that this is the reason why he is on the street. Because even after taking victory, the cost of living is not coming down. So when they sit there and they want to talk about meddling in elections, really? Are they describing themselves? And what kind of summit and what kind of democracy are they talking about? Because they themselves are guilty. Recently, you all know that there are a lot of demonstrations that are going on in Kenya, because it is entrenched in our constitution. The constitution requires that when people are going for demonstrations, they should not carry any weapons, and they do it peacefully. The government on its part is supposed to be providing security to those who are demonstrating, business property, and to those people who are not demonstrating. But you all know that recently this government charged goons to go and invade the property of the former president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. They took all the animals, they cut down trees, and they touched that land. Then there was an attempt, a deliberate attempt to kill Raila, because they shot 7 times into his car. Thank God that that is an armored vehicle. Otherwise, it would be a different story. And the international community, including Joe Biden, was there and they watched. Because as that was happening, US Senator Kuhn was here. He held meetings with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. He also held a meeting with Raila Amolo Odinga. So, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of democracy is Joe Biden talking about? What kind of summit for democracy are they sitting down to discuss? Because this government continues to interfere with human rights. There is serious issues and cases of human rights violation, interference with elections, beating up journalists here and there. Are they going to find themselves guilty? Because I want to read to you what Joe Biden was saying. In that summit, Joe Biden says that history and common sense tell us that liberty, opportunity, and justice thrive in a democracy, not in an autocracy. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Joe Biden should reconsider what he thinks is democracy, by including our president of Kenya, by including other presidents who continue to violate human rights, by interfering and meddling in people's elections. They are themselves guilty of interfering with democracy in the global world. I don't know what you think. Please share with me in the comment section, but that is my take.